Let me tell you a story that starts with a bang, literally. My front door shuddered under the kind of knock that makes you wonder if someone's house is on fire or if maybe you're about to star in your very own episode of Cops. I swung the door open, heart pounding, and there they stood, two officers' cruisers idling at the curb, and in their shadow, Karen Mitchell herself. The vice president of our HOA Arms, folded smile, sharp as a razor, standing like she just knew the universe was on her side. "Mr. Blake," one cop began, "we've received a complaint that you're unlawfully denying residents access to the community pool." And right there in that split second, all I could think was, are you kidding me? The community pool, the pool behind me, that my grandfather dug out of Texas clay 50 years before half these folks were even born. The same pool my family has patched, cleaned, and guarded through droughts, floods, and 1,000 barbecues. Karen had worked up the neighborhood with her usual flavor of drama, and now she'd called in the cavalry. "My name's Michael Blake, and for a hot minute I thought moving back home would be a retreat. I left Houston's energy sector after 12-hour shifts wore me down to dust, thinking I'd find some peace in the ranch my father left me. Turns out peace wasn't on the menu. I was stepping straight into a war, one I never saw coming, but I sure wasn't backing down from. If you're watching this, do me a favor, drop where you're tuning in from, because you're about to see just how sideways things can get when the wrong person tries to flex the wrong kind of power. Long before Karen ever scribbled a note or waved her clipboard, that pool was here. Summer of 1965, my granddad, a bricklayer by trade, stubborn as the day is long, decided he wanted something lasting for the family. Neighbors laughed, called him crazy. But he mixed every bag of concrete himself, sweating under that Texas sun, laying each sky blue tile by hand. By the time he finished, he'd built more than a pool. He'd built a monument. My earliest memories are tied to that water, summers spent pruning up in the shallow end, smoky barbecues, nights staring up at stars, while my grandpa spun stories about grit and keeping your word. When Grandpa passed, my dad kept it alive, not fancy, just steady. "This pool is our family's fingerprint," he'd tell me. And I carried that with me all the years in Houston when burnout turned my bones to lead, and the only thing that cut through the noise was the thought of cool water and cicadas humming over the deck. When Dad died, coming back home was more than an escape. It was like taking a breath after drowning. I fixed up the house, swept the barn, and rolling back the cover on that old pool, I decided to bring it back. Elbow grease, cracked hands, and a head full of memories. By spring, it looked the way it did when I was a kid, and I'd sit with my coffee watching sunlight dance across the water, thinking, damn, I finally made it. And then right on cue in struts, Karen Mitchell, clipboard queen of Maple Rest HOA, deciding my family's pool would look good in her little empire. One day, it's a letter in my mailbox, official letterhead, and all informing me that the community pool must be made available to residents no later than Friday. I read it 3 times each pass, more ridiculous. This wasn't theirs, it never was. But the arrogance in her tone, man, I should have known better than to ignore it. 2 days later, I'm skimming leaves when Karen pulls up sunglasses so big I could see my own stunned face in the reflection. She doesn't even say hi. "Mr. Blake, we need to discuss the pool. I play it cool." "What about it?" She snaps open the clipboard, talks about jurisdiction, our maps, and the same legal threats she probably picked up from a rerun of Judge Judy. But I'd seen those maps. I had my deed. I told her flat, it's mine. End of discussion. She didn't blink, just threatened fines and legal trouble, her smile tightening like a noose. But I've faced bigger bullies in boardrooms, and I sure wasn't about to be scared off by some HOA power trip. Next morning, violation notice on my gate, big orange $500 a day fine. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about misunderstanding. This was about flexing intimidation and seeing who would blink first. And Karen. She was banking on me folding. Fast forward to that Saturday knock at my door, the police, Karen standing behind them, that same grin plastered on. The officers are professional, but you can tell this isn't their first HOA rodeo. Karen butts in, waving maps and talking about residents' rights. But when the cops ask if I've got documentation, I lay out the deed survey maps, tax records, you name it. Karen tries to bluff about fees collected for pool upkeep, rookie move, because the cops jump on it. You've been collecting fees for a facility you can't prove you own. Suddenly, she's backpedaling. I invite the officers to see the pool walk the property line. They see what anyone would see: a private pool, fenced in, shaded by old pecan trees, no community gate, no sign, just home. One cop mutters, "Doesn't look like any HOA pool I've seen." Karen sputters, but the police aren't buying it. They leave, telling her to show legal proof or quit calling them. That's when Karen shows her true hand, threatening to escalate, hissing. "You may have fooled them today, but this isn't over." She wanted a battle and she got one. After that, the notices came thick and fast. Fines jumped to $750 a day. Talk of liens, even bogus violations for things like unapproved fencing and unauthorized gatherings. Spoiler, the gathering was just me and Ray, my dad's old friend, sipping tea on the deck. But Karen wasn't done. One Friday, I come home to find an official-looking community pool rules sign bolted to my fence. She'd branded my backyard like it was hers. Neighbors started to wander over, confused. A young couple asked if they could use it now that the HOA fixed things. I showed them the family photos my grandfather beside the fresh pool in '65. The HOA not even a thought until 1990. You could see the doubt creep into their eyes. That's when I knew Karen's house of cards was wobbling. Here's where things take a twist, because I'm not fighting alone anymore. The first person I call is Emma Porter, a college friend turned environmental attorney with a mean right hook when it comes to the law. I tell her the story and she's immediately fired up. "That's not overreach, Michael. That's fraud." She drives up that weekend ready for battle. Then Ray shows up with a shoebox full of yellowed news clippings and family photos. One headline reads, "Local family builds pool on ranch property." That box, that's the smoking gun. Emma and I, along with Ray, get to work. My dining table becomes a war room: deeds maps, old tax receipts stacked like sandbags. Emma drags me to the county office for certified maps. Sure enough, the plat boundaries stop a quarter-mile short of my fence. The HOA's got nothing but wishful thinking and hot air. And the more we dig, the dirtier it gets. Glossy flyers start turning up in mailboxes, promising investors Maple Crest Phase 2, with renderings of my pool front and center photoshopped right in. Emma flips through public records, and there it is: plans to hand my pool over to developers using language just vague enough to sound legal. Sarah Lynn, a local reporter, gets wind of it and starts sniffing around. Residents begin to doubt, whispers turn to questions, and the next HOA meeting is standing room only. Karen, always the showwoman, unveils her grand vision for the neighborhood, complete with our pool. I stand up, deed in hand, and call her out for fraud. Emma backs me up with the original maps tax records and those old clippings. Residents gasp. Wilkins. The would-be developer tries to wriggle out, but it's too late. The room turns. Court day is electric. Judge Harmon Old School isn't here for drama. Karen's lawyer waves maps, talks about historical usage, but the judge cuts him off. "Do you have a deed?" "No, sir, but precedent doesn't trump recorded deeds." Emma lays out our case piece by piece, the judge nodding along. When she holds up a photo of my grandfather beside the pool, then shows the HOA's marketing flyer. With the same pool pasted in, you could hear a pin drop. The judge rules pool is mine. HOA has no authority. All fines void. And he refers the HOA for possible fraud investigation. Afterwards, the police report comes in, laying it out in black and white. HOA provided no legal proof property deed supports Mr. Blake. Now, Karen's not just a failed bully, she's a public liar. Sarah's article on the case goes viral. At the next HOA meeting, the mood's mutinous. Residents demand answers, refunds, respect. Karen's clipboard might as well be a dead fish, nobody's listening. Online memes circulate mocking her fake rules. The HOA starts to unravel, but justice doesn't stop there. The county launches a financial audit uncovering years of misuse: pool fees funneled to luxury retreats, consulting dinners, all on the residents' dime. When that story breaks, the anger is volcanic. Karen tries to explain. Richard Wilkins disappears. Lawsuits fly from investors who bought into the scam. One by one, board members resign, and the HOA, once feared, becomes a punchline. And you know what? I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The truth did the heavy lifting. I gave the pool the care it deserved: patched tiles, replanted flowers, cleaned until the place shone. Neighbors began stopping by, not with suspicion, but with respect, even a little awe. One mother, her kids in tow, said if we'd known we would have respected it. That stuck with me. For so long, community was twisted into a weapon by people like Karen. I decided to take it back, created the Blake Pool Conservation Trust. Still my property, but access for those who respected it under my terms. When we opened, it was just a wooden sign carved with my grandfather's initials and a plaque for his legacy. No fanfare, just gratitude. The sound of kids laughing, parents watching from blankets, old friends sharing stories by the pool. That's what community really is. Not control, not power, but respect. Here's the thing. This story isn't just about a pool or a stubborn family or even a fallen HOA queen. It's about something deeper. I learned maybe a little late that when you fight for your legacy, you're not just defending concrete and water. You're fighting for memory, for principle, for the right to define what's yours in a world that's all too eager to redraw the lines. The judge did more than settle a property dispute that day. He reminded everyone watching that truth outlasts arrogance and the law, when wielded right, will always beat a bully's bluff. So now every night when I sit by the water watching the stars reflected in the pool my grandfather built, I realize they tried to steal my legacy. Instead, they handed me a louder voice. What would you have done? Where's the line between protecting what's yours and sharing it with the people around you? How do you decide when to fight, when to forgive, and when to open your gates? Not out of fear, but out of strength. I want to hear your stories. Have you ever tangled with an HOA, a Karen, or someone who thought a clipboard gave them the right to run your life? Drop your experience in the comments below. Tell me where you draw the line, what justice looks like to you, or how you found your own peace after a fight. If you cheered for this outcome, or if it reminded you of your own battle, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell, because the next chapter is already brewing. And remember, when they come for your legacy, don't be afraid to use your voice. It's louder than you think.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video. Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.